Let's start with a look at the poet Basavanna, who is coming about before / during the development or the incursion of Muslim beliefs, and you can see in his poetry a kind of unsettled nature to his perspective, where he is giving voice to a population that is in some ways hungering for exactly the kind of discipline that Islamic monotheism offers. But within that, you're also getting the interweaving of a sense of social unrest, a sense of personal anxiety, and a spiritual searching. So the social, the theological, and the personal are again all represented. Here's one poem. Look, the world in a swell of waves is beating upon my face. Why should it rise to my heart? Tell me, oh tell me, why is it rising now to my throat? Lord, how can I tell you anything when it is risen high over my head? Lord, Lord, listen to my cries. O Lord of the meeting rivers, listen. There is here, I think, a fairly explicit cry from a place of social and political instability. The world is a swell of waves beating upon his face. There you have some nature imagery, always notable. There you have a sense of being overcome, perhaps not the sense of being a victim, the sense of being vulnerable. The questioning also, more sense of an individual who is confused. Why should it rise to my heart? Tell me, oh tell me. This is a desperate pleading to God. Now right there, that's fairly universal, I would think. Why is life so hard? Why is my life so difficult? Lord, what are you doing to me? One thing after the other, like waves crashing on the beach. Why? Lord, how can I tell you anything when it is risen high over my head? Lord, Lord, listen to my cries. O Lord of the meeting rivers, listen. Notice the repetition. Lord, Lord, Lord. This is insistent. It is devotional in its focus. It is singular in its focus. This is not a plural lords here. It is appealing to one God. But it's not just submitting to it. It's demanding, or begging at least, for consideration. Almost like the story of Job, who demands that God explain himself for everything that he has done. Here, that persistence. Lord, Lord, Lord. Not letting God off the hook. Demanding acknowledgement. So you can see within this a great social turbulence, but within it, you have this one figure who is saying, damn it, I deserve an answer. I deserve recognition. There is an individuality within the social group, which I think is significant. Also, I would say a sense of the drowning that is happening here, a kind of drowning in a social corruption or contagion, society, like waves beating upon his face. He feels like he's going under. It is rising to his throat. Makes you wonder does he feel the waters that he's talking about rising around him to the level of his throat? Or is it perhaps vomit from the sickening experience of living in this world, in this corrupt society, that is rising in his throat within? So there you have the matching of the exterior and the interior. He's talking about both simultaneously here. He's talking about society, he's talking about himself. He's talking about the inside, he's talking about the outside. All of this is being expressed at once. Number 21. Father, in my ignorance, you brought me through mother's wombs, through unlikely worlds. Was it wrong just to be born, O Lord? Have mercy on me for being born once before. I give you my word, Lord of the meeting rivers, never to be born again. Huh? What? I don't know what's going on there. But just look what, is noticeable. In my ignorance, when you admit your ignorance, what does that generally mean?
Maybe you've kind of like allowed yourself to be blind to certain things, or just...
Yeah, if you have allowed yourself to be blind to certain things and you can now admit that, what does that mean about your ability to detect those certain things?
It makes you aware, I guess.
Yeah, you have learned. If you say, I was ignorant, generally that means I am no longer ignorant. I know what I did not know. I have made progress. Ignorance is also a sign of some vulnerability, some weakness, some insecurity in the world. Again, that sense of the world outside is kind of threatening and I'm just within it, getting battered around. I am weak within a threatening environment. You brought me through mother's wombs, through unlikely worlds. More progress there. Now here also I would say that through mother's wombs, wombs? I don't know about you. My mom was just an ordinary person, but I'm pretty sure she was only packing a single womb. So here we're talking about a tradition of multiple births, otherwise known as reincarnation. He has been born multiple times into this world, a standard belief of Hinduism. Through mother's wombs, through unlikely worlds, there I'm thinking, the mother might be another example of the world. Mother is Gaia, perhaps, and is matched against the male god. Was it wrong to be born, O Lord? More vulnerability there. More specific questioning of God, demanding to be recognized, demanding to be answered, perhaps. But, the challenge of expressing yourself to God and saying, I deserve an answer. But at the same time, notice the humility in that question. Was it wrong to be born? Do I have any right to stand? Do I have any validity in this world at all? Especially in the face of God? Is that a kind of submission to God, or is it a challenge against Him? Have mercy on me for being born once before. More reincarnation. Once before. Again, it is a curious thing for a process that goes on forever. Perhaps here we're talking more about a singular birth, meaning not reincarnated. I give you my word, Lord of the meeting rivers, never to be born again. Now, you can take that a number of ways. To never be born again, well, in the tradition of karma, in Hinduism, you go through reincarnation until you are released. At a certain point, like getting your Starbucks gift card, you reach a certain level and they just say, okay, you're done now. Here is your reward. And your reward is you don't have to go down and live through all of this stuff again. But at the same time, never to be born again almost sounds like a death wish. You want it to end. So is it a release into a broader spiritual realm, nirvana, or is it just a negative end? Not sure. Within this, I will say, you see that phrase, Lord of the Meeting Rivers, which was repeated in the earlier one, and it shows up in pretty much every poem here. These poems, it's a style of these poems, is to have an individualized signature line from each poet. Sometimes they refer to one another or refer to themselves by name, which is a little odd when suddenly they shift to a third person reference about themselves. That is just a stylistic choice of the format that they're choosing to write in, but think also about how or what that says, how that develops its own meaning, where that individualized line is so particular. It is repeated throughout, so it is almost a common thing across all the poems, but it marks each one with that poet's particular stamp. So it's another expression, I would say, of an individual mind within a broader social artifact. So again, the conflict between the individual and society at large. Cripple me, Father, that I may not go here and there. Blind me, Father, that I may not look at this and that. Deafen me, Father, that I may not hear anything else. Keep me at your men's feet, looking for nothing else, O Lord of the meeting rivers. Now, a fairly explicit request for punishment, very physical punishment. Cripple me, blind me, deafen me. These are all attacks on the body, the physical expression of this identity. Also, you know, an inability to articulate oneself as an individual. If you cannot hear or speak or move around, you might be alive, but it's hard to really express an individuality. So that tension is there. This focus again on the singular figure, demanding recognition, saying, punish me, punish me, punish me. Coming to a one-to-one relationship with God. Again, not a pantheistic moment, a singularly monotheistic moment here. The God here, Shiva, is individualized. But the poem is demanding that they engage one-on-one. The master of the house, is he at home or isn't he? Grass on the threshold, dirt in the house. The master of the house, is he at home or isn't he? Lies in the body, lust in the heart. No, the master of the house is not at home, O Lord of the meeting rivers. I don't know what the hell they're talking about here. I'll be perfectly honest. What I see is the repeated line, master of the house, is he at home or isn't he? There is a great sense again of uncertainty. Master of the house, is he at home or isn't he, is a way of saying nobody's in charge here. What's going on? Is there order in the universe? Is there anything in control, or are we all just making this up as we go along? Sense of vulnerability, sense of fear, quite frankly. You can sense, again, this is a very turbulent time in history. You can sense Basava feeling social anxiety, feeling political instability, feeling for his personal safety in this anxious, potentially violent time. Grass on the threshold, dirt in the house. Again, nature imagery, grass and dirt. That qualifies as nature, I would say. Exactly what they mean, I'm not sure. The poem seems to be seeking answers through a simpler, more elemental, more fundamental symbolism. Since I'm looking around the world and I don't understand what's going on, I'm just going to focus here and say, okay, what can that mean? What does that little patch of grass tell me that I can maybe develop some sense of security from, some sense of solace, some reassurance that the world isn't all chaos? And this is a large part of a mystical tradition where images can just exist to confound you, and you don't necessarily ever get an explanation as to what they're supposed to be, symbols of. We're all quite comforted when we find, oh, this artist is using symbolism. And here, the symbolism is this. The fruit in the Garden of Eden, that is sin. Yes, I know what that means. So I can feel good about my life because I know, gold star for me. But isn't that ultimately kind of false? We never really know by looking at something what it means. We can tell ourselves it's comforting to think that that has a simple one-to-one, that's what it means, status, But realistically, when we're looking around at the world around us, the physical world around us, and trying to find some meaning from it, we're really just making it up as we go along. And we never, ever get the comfort of confirmation. You know? Lies in the body, lust in the heart. No, the master of the house is not at home, our Lord of the meeting rivers. Lies in the body, lust in the heart, another sense of corruption, another sense of degradation, kind of negative progress. And whenever you see progress, you have to think in terms of, well, these poems are largely religious, and in a tradition of Hinduism, what we're talking about generally is a kind of spiritual progress, because, again, karma, you try and do a little bit better each time, each rebirth, each reincarnation, you try and live just a little bit better to ultimately be released into nirvana. Progress is an indication of that. No, the master of the house is not at home, our Lord of the meeting rivers. So here the Lord is not the master of the house. Who is? I'm not sure. But again, just within this poem, it starts as a question. Is he at home or isn't he? Is he at home or isn't he? The question is repeated. But then within the poem itself, just a few short lines, you get an answer. No, he's not at home. So you can feel good about that at least there was an answer. There is progress being made. All this is going on here. I went to fornicate, but all I got was counterfeit. I went behind a ruined wall, but scorpions stung me. The watchman who heard my screams just peeled off my clothes. I went home in shame. My husband raised wheels on my back. All the rest, O Lord of the meeting rivers, the king took for his fines. I'm a fan of any poem that manages to get the word fornicate in the first line. It's a funny word because it sounds so, I don't know, formal. Guys, use that as a pickup line sometimes. See where it gets you. I went to fornicate, but all I got was counterfeit. I tried to follow my own animal lusts, but all I got was fake. All I got was falsity. All I got was counterfeit. I tried for something worldly in the hope that it would be fulfilling, but instead it left me feeling just as empty. I went behind the ruined wall, but scorpions stung me. More elusive symbolism there. I don't know what the hell it means. More signs of mysticism. What?
And I feel like it just makes me think about how, like in the religious terms of the fact that when you fornicate, it's like, oh, this is like simple thing and it's bad, and it's like it's better to be married than to burn with passion or something like that, they say. And that's what I get from the scorpion stung.
Yeah, there is a sense of, yeah, I went behind a ruined wall, but scorpions stung me. I went past something perhaps that I shouldn't have, where society tells me not to go, and perhaps driven by my own curiosity, my own human curiosity, perhaps God-ordained curiosity, but in the end, it damaged me. So yeah, that is there. So that is a kind of theological basis of what this poem is trying to work out. But there's also, I think, a fair amount of socio-political criticism going on here. the watchman who heard my screams just peeled off my clothes. That sounds like a little police brutality there. I don't know exactly the context that's taking place there, but that doesn't seem like something a watchman should be doing. So there is a kind of social corruption going on here. Times are bad. But look also, that next line, I went home in shame, my husband raised wheels on my back. So now we're being told that this is Basava, a male poet, writing in the voice of a woman. Clear binary gender roles. And when you see that, suddenly it's taking on a little bit of a different tinge, because he is stepping outside his own, gender package, let's say. And this becomes a little bit more of a explicit critique along those lines. I went home in shame, my husband raised wheels on my back. So that is clearly because she went to fornicate. She went out, meet someone cheating on her husband. She came back home, and her husband beats her up. Ugly from just about any angle. But it's so deeply personal. Within this broader social critique, where you can see that, well, look, the family is breaking down, the society is just going to hell in a handbasket. There is that sense of, well, yeah, this woman just came home and got beaten. And maybe it's an anachronistic take. Maybe it's, not appropriate to what is a fairly patriarchal culture. But I feel bad for this woman, even if she did go out to cheat on her husband. If his reaction is to automatically, and we have no other information about him, to automatically beat her so much that it raised wheels on my back, and I'm thinking, not such a great guy. I'm not particularly sure what wheels are here. I assume they're like welts. The kind of injury you get perhaps when you are whipping someone. These aren't bruises. But also, where are they? The back. When somebody gets injured in the back, that means they're either running away or perhaps curled up. So I can't help but feel bad for this woman. It's another expression of desperation, personal desperation and social desperation. It's another expression of the master of the house not being at home. Where is God in this equation? Where is the belief in this equation? All the rest, O Lord of the meeting rivers, the king took for his fines. The king took for his fines. A political and economic framing here. The husband and the king, both male patriarchal figures, punish. That's all we know about them. Are they taking the place of God? If they punish as a kind of moral correction, which is what we're implied here, isn't that the role of God? Are human beings being forced to play the role of a deity? Don't you take on this thing called bhakti. Like a saw, it cuts when it goes, and it cuts again when it comes. If you risk your hand with a cobra in a pitcher, will it let you pass? Again, I think you can see some progress in this. This is the voice of someone who is perhaps experienced. If you're giving advice to someone else about how to comport themselves in the world, chances are you have some experience in that and you're trying to share that. Don't take on this thing called bhakti. Bhakti. It is a warning, but the very fact that he seems to be narrating this from some position of achievement, like I have gotten far down the line, and let me tell you, it's a tough road, but by implication, he has traveled that road. He has made progress. Spiritual progress toward a goal. If you risk your hand with a cobra in a pitcher, will it let you pass? Passing is explicitly a reference to progress. It's also a sign of, are you particularly worthy? Reincarnation is about cleansing yourself over many progressive steps and ultimately achieving divine blessedness because you have shed your earthly matter. I don't know anything like time, beats, and meter, nor the arithmetic of strings and drums. I don't know the count of iamb and dactyl. My lord of the meeting rivers, as nothing will hurt you, I'll sing as I love. What? Iambs and dactyls? Well, that's poetry. An iamb, a dactyl, these are meters in poetry. And we're talking about time, beats, and meter, songs, strings and drums, music. We're talking about the value of poetry itself here. And he seems to disdain it. You know, I don't know nothing. I don't know anything like time, beats, or meter, nor the arithmetic of strings and drums. Believe it or not, music was often taught as an experience of math, regular beats, stuff like that. And the poem is hinting at that here. I don't know the count of iamb and dactyl. It's a poem where the most distinct element of it is the poet saying, I don't know anything. What? My lord of the meeting river, as nothing will hurt you, I'll sing as I love. So he'll sing without any formal considerations of the song itself. He'll sing without iambs and dactyls, without meter, without music. He's not going to take his expression and pin it down into all those little formulas. His poetic spirit can't be contained like that. It needs a freer scope. And if you take that just outside that narrow scope of poetry, you start to open it up to other meanings. We're talking here about spirit that is ungovernable. Spirit that can't be understood in human, measurable, worldly terms. We're talking about art and beauty and divinity itself. It is also a declaration of not really liking books, quite frankly. So you guys are not new in this. Nature and spirit are greater than literacy itself here. Because the ability to read, the ability to write, the ability to understand things wrestled down into print on a page. Well, sometimes the universe is bigger than the print on a page. Sometimes the human mind, the human conception, the human spirituality, sometimes God himself cannot be wrestled into the page. This is mysticism. Here, I would say we're getting again, interpretive, symbolic, because you got to crack out of that, well, no, they're talking about poetry. Open that symbol up a little bit, and you can see somebody striving for Islam, quite frankly. Islam, which means submission. The word Islam means submission. You submit to a God who is all-powerful. Not one God among many, bunch of squabbling gods just hanging out, pissing one another off all the time. But one supreme God who cannot be understood, who is beyond all question, who is undifferentiated and absolutely unimaginable, and a God who cannot be measured in beats and meters. The pot is a god, the winnowing fan is a god, the stone in the street is a god, the comb is a god, the bowstring is also a god, the bushel is a god, and the sprouted cup is a god. Gods, gods, there are so many, there's no place left for a foot. There is only one God, he is our Lord of the meeting rivers. Pretty explicit. Our boy here has had enough of the Hindu polytheistic tradition. He's mocking it, he's satirizing it by looking at it from a critical perspective. He says, yeah, all right, everything has a god. That marker is a god, my phone is a god, my little chapstick over here is a god. It's ludicrous. Takes the enormity of a polytheistic, pantheistic tradition and shrinks it down into the everyday, so that we get that intersection of the physical and the spiritual, between the minute and the immense, between physicality and spirituality on a human level as well. You can look at something and, all right, fine, it's a god, but it doesn't fill me with any sense of wonder. It doesn't fill me with any sense of spirituality. I cannot submit to something that is just innate or inert. So you can see this line being developed. You can see this desperation for something new. Look here, dear fellow, I wear these men's clothes only for you. Sometimes I am a man, sometimes I am a woman. O Lord of the meeting rivers, I'll make wars for you, but I'll be your devotee's bride. Whoa, we're getting a little freaky here. I wear these men's clothes only for you. You can seize on this and launch into a long argument about, early trans identity and stuff like that. You might not be wrong with this. We really don't know that much about Basava's personal life. But again, that's just the individual level. That's just the kernel. You have to crack that open and see what's inside. Sometimes I am a man, sometimes I am a woman. He is going either way there. Almost indifferently. And if you look at that as a non-individualistic level, or as something in addition to the individualistic level, you can start to speculate that, well, again, in a largely patriarchal society, generally there is a hierarchy. And who's on top? The dudes. And the women are always ranked beneath. But now here, he's just saying, screw that. Let's upend the hierarchy. Maybe no one is superior. Maybe we're all the same. Well, Hindu culture is based on hierarchy. The Brahmins, the warriors, the whatever, and down to the untouchables. The class system, the caste system is baked into their identity. And so here, this poem is saying, caste schmast. We're all the same. Again, a tenet of Islam. We are all the same before God because God is enormous and we are all tiny. That stressing of community is also evident in this. If we're all the same, why can't we all just get along? There's a kind of desperation in this. He needs to feel that he is linked with other people, that he has bonds with them. But in a society that is ripe for conquest, let's say, those bonds can be difficult to feel. The rich make temples for Shiva. What shall I, a poor man, do? My legs are pillars, the body the shrine, the head a cupola of gold. Listen, O Lord of the meeting rivers, things standing shall fall, but the moving ever shall stay. Having tackled the hierarchy of gender, expands into the hierarchy of wealth. Wealthy people are usually esteemed more important than the poor. Here, he's flattening that out. And he's saying it has nothing to do with all of that external quality of worldly wealth, but rather what you individually bring to the table just in your human essence. My legs are pillars, the body the shrine. He's talking about the body being a temple, the body being the individual body being in a special relationship with God, with divinity. And we all have a body. Some of us more than the others. So you can see this kind of radical egalitarianism going on here, striving for solace, striving for security. The physical body is a manifestation of the spirit, and the spirit is the goal. Question?
Yeah, the question based on like what you said, Islam, like how like we're all equal, because if you just compare from humanity to God, it's so big that if you just compare from human to human, it's just too insignificant. Are you trying to say that?
Yeah, it's, I am not going to claim expertise. I am not a theologian. I don't want to go down that road. But speaking very generally, this call right here is an expression of a kind of undifferentiated flattening out of humanity as almost, a unified monolith against the the enormity, the incomprehensible dominance of God, Allah in this case, where it's there is some solace in being just one among the many, but it's also a recognition that, we're all in this together, which he's kind of crying for at different times. But at the same time, you can see the tension of him crying out for a recognition of his individuality within that. So again, the individual and the social, the personal and the group are always at one another. And through that conflict, you can see people shifting around and trying to figure these things out for themselves. And I think that's fairly apparent in the poem. Again, don't look for solid answers in any of this. Just appreciate that the poems are sort of nudging you to ask different questions, prompting you to suggest things in different ways, so that you are on a process of reevaluation rather than just being told, this is what you should believe. Isn't that handy? Few great artists can really say that with a straight face.